everyone, and today on Challenging the Spin, I am joined by someone who has been a true icon in the pole world and in my own personal inspiration for my own journey with pole dancing, Jenyne Butterfly. Jenyne is widely celebrated as one of the pioneers of pole dancing, helping to elevate pole dance onto the global and international stages. From performing with Cirque du Soleil to competing and judging internationally, her career has had a major impact on the growth and perception of pole around the world. Many of you may recognise her if you've watched the Netflix documentary Strip Down, Rise Up, where she was actually a cast member of that documentary. And watching her myself in that film was a particular turning point for me. I seen her story, her presence, and how just incredible she was at pole dancing. And it played a major role in inspiring me to take my first steps into the world of pole dancing. But what's even more special is that Jenyne hasn't just inspired me from afar in that documentary, but she's been so incredibly kind and supportive since day one. I first reached out to her on Instagram over a year ago, and I had the chance to then speak with her where she actually joined at a panel event that I ran for Challenging the Spin. And I just remember how excited and also completely nervous I was to meet someone that I looked up to so much. But from the very beginning, she was one of the most warm, grounded, and genuinely lovely people that I've met, and she really wanted to help me in any way she could. Beyond that panel event, she then actually generously gave me even more of her very busy time to sit down for this one-to-one interview that we scheduled, something that I am so grateful for and genuinely can't believe actually happened. So Jenyne Butterfly, she isn't just a powerhouse in the pole community, but she's also a reminder of how far generosity and a heartful conversation can go. So I'm very grateful for Jenyne to sit down with me to chat for this episode, and I hope she inspires you as much as she inspired me in this conversation.
So, Jenyne, if you could just tell us a little bit about how you got involved in pole dance.
Okay, so when I first saw pole dancing, it was in a gentleman's club and an exotic dance place in Seattle. And there was no other place that pole existed. This was back in, I want to say 2002, 2001 or two, and I didn't even want to go to the exotic club. It was I was only 18 years old, and I don't know, it's different in every country, but here in the States you can't really go into any bars or clubs or any there's nothing to do when you're 18. You have to be 21 years of age to drink and to basically go anywhere and have any fun. So my friends wanted to go to this place and they said, we can go here. It's an 18 and older club. And then they told me that it was an exotic club. And I said, no, I do not want to go there. That does not sound like fun. And I think I was just still very closed-minded at the time. And they convinced me to go. And that's where I discovered pole. And I saw a dancer known as Pantera on stage, and that just happened to be the club where the national pole dance champion happened to be working, and she happened to be there that night. And I mean, call it fate or whatever, but when I saw her, she was doing wild things, would flip up and grab on with her legs and then drop down into a one-handed handstand and balance that and then spin ridiculously fast. And then she would climb up and she would hang upside down with her thighs and then do crunches. And she would just kind of be doing like crunching up and sitting up and going, yeah. Her performance style was that of like, I don't know whether she's going to attack me or not, but it's intimidating and awesome at the same time. Like, she was just so strong. She showed a lot of strength, and it was just wildly entertaining and looked like fun.
Mhm.
That was the huge thing for me, is that she looked like she was having so much fun. And it kind of reminded me of gymnastics, which I did when I was very young, like 8 years old. And then that was actually taken away from me. My parents stopped bringing me to gymnastics before I got to competitive level. It was basically like cartwheels and
Yeah.
handstands and just fun kind of gymnastics when you're super young. And when I saw her doing those things on the pole, I thought, well, that's like playing on a playground and gymnastics at the same time. Playing on a playground like is more free. You're just like on the monkey bars and just but doing really cool tricks. And I was definitely drawn to it immediately, and left that club that night just, oh haha, that was fun with my friends, and then actually couldn't stop thinking about it.
Mhm.
And I wanted to go back and I wanted to see her again. And I went there because it wasn't too far from my where I was living, and I went there alone.
Mhm.
And the security guard actually turned me away and said that you can't go in there unless you have a male escort. At the time, females were not allowed to just go in and observe the
Oh,
girls dancing.
okay.
So, but then he asked me, he was like, "Oh, are you here to like apply for a job?" And I said, "Oh, yeah. Yeah."
Smart.
And I just kind of went along with it to go in, and I just said, "Okay, I'll just come in and, fill out an application." And he asked if I was a dancer, and I was like, "No." So I really had no skill set. I was literally scooping ice cream at Ben and Jerry's as a job and going to college. I was studying interior design and architecture, but I wanted to go in that club and I wanted to see her again. So I went in to fill out an application, and he said that I could waitress. If I'm not a dancer and I don't have any like experience or whatever, I could just waitress. And I thought, okay, well, that means that I could come in and I could serve people drinks and I could watch all the time.
Mhm.
And I liked that idea. And I went to try to figure out how I could add another thing that I like, going to college, working a job, and then maybe another job, and just kind of work there at the club and watch what was happening. And I did. And there was two stages, and they would open the main room, and then they would open another little stage on the back room if they got really busy. So they would have like two stages going at one time, and they never really got busy. That area was actually more of a family friendly kind of area. It wasn't like a party place. I started to set down my tray and just kind of like go on the backstage and like try to do something on the pole, because there was one just not being used.
Mhm.
And the DJ saw me because the way he set up, he views both stages to run them both. And he said, we're having an amateur contest and you should compete, in the amateur contest. And I thought, no, no, there's like, I can't get on stage. I really did not feel secure about myself. Always loved performing, in a sense that when I was a child, I would get all the neighborhood kids to come over and get my dad to get his video camera, and I would choreograph and produce plays, and we would all act out these big theatrical things, and I would, play dress up and, be on stage, but not really actually in front of like a live audience. That scared the hell out of me. So he convinced me. He said that there's a prize. First, second, and third places all get a prize, cash money. And I thought, okay, this sounds good. I'm to this. I kind of want to do this. And then I won. You go on to the next one and the next one and the next one. And it was the way that it was a big chain of clubs. And if you win a club, you go to locals and you go to regionals and you go to nationals. And they do all these competitions. I ended up finding a place that I could buy a pole and putting one in my house. When I first started trying to climb on the pole on the backstage, I had zero strength. My arms, the poles were all 50 millimeters brass, never cleaned. They were always just covered in oils from the girls. They were all static. There was nothing else. That was the only thing out there. So it was tough, I think. And then Pantera watched me one time and she said, "You need boots." And I said, "What?" And she said, "Yeah, they grip." Because I was just struggling. And she's, instead of laughing at me, she decided to help me. And she gave me a pair of boots that she wasn't wearing that were like black and white zebra stripes. And it was the craziest thing. I had never seen anything like that. And I put them on, and lo and behold, they grip the pole. So it was basically what I like to call them now is training wheels. So if like if you're going to learn pull-ups, you don't just go straight to pulling up your whole body weight. You do the assisted machine that takes a little bit of the weight for you. And that's what I felt like the boots did. They allowed me to start actually climbing and sticking up there and building muscle to do things that I wanted to do. But the girls there were not as friendly. That was the nicest thing that anyone there ever did for me. They had their tricks, their moves, their clients. You don't talk to people that they're doing lap dances for. Like, even me just going over, dropping off drinks, I felt like I would have to just like throw the drink and be like, "Okay, thanks, bye." Because the girls didn't want you to come in on their territory. It was very territorial. And so when I first started doing stuff, I was probably afraid to get beat up if I did somebody else's pull trick. So anything that any doing on stage, I had to do nothing like that. So from the get-go, from when I started teaching myself stuff, it needed to be different. So I was going through what could possibly, how can I change this move? How can I make it my own? How much further can I push in this? And I started just getting creative with it. I didn't want to get beat up. It needs to be your own stuff. So I stopped working at that club. I left there. I got my own pole. Someone told me, "Oh, you're doing that? That sounds really cool. You should go to this circus place and try the trapeze." And I said, "Ooh, that sounds like so much fun. I definitely want to take classes." I went and it was really hard to find this place. It was very underground in a warehouse, no heating or air conditioning, real circus people, like striped tights and don't shave anything, and mustaches that twirl, and a tuba in the corner, and like old circus people. Finally felt like I found my people. I found my tribe. I found what I was really like drawn to, what fed my soul better than anything else. I felt accepted. It was cool to be weird and different and to climb on things and act out certain kinds of characters. And just that was like, I hit the jackpot. I found this place. I started taking circus classes with them. And after only a few classes, because the pole had started to develop strength for me, she said, "Oh, do you want to come and do rehearsals with us and start training as an aerialist to perform in our 9-women group that we do performances with?" So immediately I jumped to rehearsals 3 times a week instead of taking classes. And she taught me rope and silks and hoop and trapeze all at the same time. I learned all the apparatus, and I definitely felt like I would go home and I would be stronger at pole, and I would learn moves that would transfer from apparatus to pole. And I just kept going with pole. It was my first love, it was like my gateway drug. And I tried taking some adult dance classes and adult gymnastics, tumbling. All I wanted was to focus on that. I was obsessed with it. And I was still going to college to get my degree, to do the job, what was like a real job. And someone told me about a pole dancing competition in Vegas. And I said, "What's Vegas?" I didn't even know that Las Vegas was a place on the map. It was Sin City or the adult playground. I didn't know anything about Vegas. My parents never went there or talked about it. So I was just still young and naive. And when I went to Vegas for the pole dancing competition, I thought I would go and be, doing artistry on the pole and be, like my style is very like smooth and slow. I like to look like I'm moving in water or just feel pretty. I just wanted to, be pretty. And that is not what that competition was. I did not realize it was called Polapalooza, and it was like a booty shaking competition. Like it's just to get the crowd going wild. So it's not like a real pole competition, but it's just like a be fast, be tricky, be entertaining, make the people scream in the nightclub. I didn't know anything. I failed miserably the first time that I went and did it, but I did see a billboard advertising Cirque du Soleil, and I said, "What is that? I need to see this." And I convinced my roommate in Seattle to drive 20 hours road trip all the way to Vegas because I needed to see Cirque du Soleil. So we went back. I watched the show and I was like, oh my gosh, that's a job. Those people are getting paid to fly around in the air and get, dressed up in costumes. And I thought, this is incredible. I can't believe that that's like a real job. And I went back home. I kept training. I just could not stop thinking about it. I drove up to Canada to see another Cirque du Soleil show that was touring around, and it was incredible. I got into a prestigious design school to continue my education, and I moved to LA. So moving to Los Angeles was where everything just kind of changed for me, because I was going there to go to college, but I needed to continue doing aerial stuff. So I found this place, Hollywood Aerial Arts, and I went to go take classes there. And that's when I realized I might have what it takes. That's when I just had to make that decision. And I called my mom and I said, "Mom, I'm quitting college and I'm running away to join the circus."
Wow.
She said, "That is so you. I'm not surprised. Like that, that sounds perfect." And I moved back to Seattle, really not knowing where to start. Life uh, took me to Las Vegas without really knowing, how to begin a career in that. Just a little shows under my belt, but it was still 2005 at the time. And that is when YouTube was created.
Wow.
So I decided to run off to Las Vegas following my boyfriend who wanted to move there to dance and shows. I moved with him. That's where I started. I got to meet a videographer who wanted to do a series of light projections on aerialists and dancers, and he had never met anyone that did pole. So he said, "I need to add this to my collection." So we set up a shoot, and he did video projections on me doing pole, and he put it on YouTube. He was very tech savvy. I don't even know if I owned a computer at that point. I was very hippie. And he had a YouTube channel and he put it up there, and it was incredible to see that. Like, I ended up going to New York and somebody recognized me saying, "You're the pole dancer." And I thought, what? And it was kind of like, I was dumbfounded about that whole concept. And I thought, well, maybe I should make more videos. And so I just kind of started doing, you know, everything to kind of get into a show. In 2006, after moving to Vegas, I got into a big show. I got into Le Rev, which was by Franco Dagone, who was the director of Cirque and left and started another company. And he was running shows like across the world in Macau and then opening the show in Vegas. And that was an incredible experience. But pole was really starting to take off, and I was planning a road trip home. And I heard that there were pole dancing studios. And I had tried to start one in Seattle, but really thought, I want to perform. And owning a studio business, I built it. I built out, I got 12-foot, 50 millimeter poles and put them all, and I still have them. They're down in my garage. This was in 2004. I built a pole studio. And then I thought, oh no, I can't do this right now. I just want to go first. Maybe I'll teach later. I don't know. I just need to focus on getting my own skills perfected and maybe performing. So, I came here, I did get into a big show, and I still felt like pole was like special, and I wanted to do more with that. So I contacted pole dance studios and said, I'm taking a road trip all the way home, going up through California and going back to Seattle, and I want to meet everyone else that's like taking pole dance classes or starting pole dance studios. I thought this is like incredible that other people have found it that aren't necessarily like exotic dancers, but just found a passion for the movement that's like happening here. And they said, oh, we know who you are. We also watched your YouTube videos, and we want you to give us a workshop, like a masterclass workshop on your way through. And I just wanted to meet them and thought it was so cool. Oh, you love it too. Like, that's so cool. But I never taught. I didn't, I thought, okay, I need to kind of figure out how I would teach. And I literally went in with no lesson plan. I just thought, okay, like, let's see where these people are, what they're doing. And then I realized that I did have a lot of tips for them because they were off of videos, and I learned by just doing and feeling where the body is, feeling the counter pressure, and discovering what works and doesn't work. And I was, I guess, just very in tune with my body. So I was able to help them a lot and talk them through stuff and teach them new stuff. And that it was so fun. It was incredible. And then I said, I am going to visit every studio and meet every person that loves doing pole. Whoa, that quickly became like an impossible goal. When they contacted me saying they're going to have the first ever United States pole dance championship, they wanted me to judge. And I said, how am I going to judge a competition? Who am I to judge? I don't even know how to judge. And I said, if I like compete and then like figure out what it's like to be competing and learn more about like a competition, like a sport pole competition, I think I need experience first. So I competed. She said, okay, that's fine. Yeah, you can compete. And I competed and won. And then I said, like, I'm definitely ready to judge now. And I didn't know that you win that one and you go to Worlds like a month later.
Wow.
And they flew me, and that's where I met Felix Kane, and a bunch of people from around the world came to Jamaica in the first, well, no, it was the second, because technically someone did try to have a world competition where Jamila and Tammy Morris, and there were a lot of well-known people that went to the 2005, I think it was, before YouTube was even created. I think they had but then this one was I think a little bit more official. There were a lot more people involved in pole at the time. So Australia had already been running competitions, Miss Pole Dance Australia. So they had, some really good people come out for that one. And it was an incredible experience, but I do not like competing. I don't see pole or aerial as like a sport or just a fitness thing for me. It's all about performance. I like to tell a story. I like to choreograph and costume, but an art form. So I definitely, when I agreed to do another world competition after that, I wasn't in it. I wanted to hire a live violinist and I wanted it to be like just a performance. I was just telling myself I was going to perform. I did feel a lot of pressure because I was starting to get like fans and people following my work online, and I was traveling the world now to teach and meeting all these people that were I was so blown away by the respect. I did not know that it would bring so much connection by people, and how it just really brings people together. The whole career that I've had has been mind-blowing to me. Like, never expected that something that I could be so passionate about still 22 years later, so in love with, love doing it, love sharing it, just so happy that I have like followed my gut, trusted my instincts, and just went for it, and definitely can't stop now. Still going.
No, amazing. Oh, I just love that story so much. It's incredible. I love it. And I love too the way you say about how, we all start as beginners, and you even saying like you didn't think you could climb the pole, and now, I mean, look at you now, you're doing amazing with it. It's incredible.
So just a quick pause on this episode to give a very massive thank you to our sponsors of this podcast today, which is Dragonfly. So if you're not sure of what Dragonfly is, it is a brand with a dragonfly symbol that combines the beauty of sports with perfect clothing. Dragonfly lives for quality sportswear and maximum exercise experience, and its main focus is of course on its pole dance clothing, which is why it is very kindly the sponsor of this episode. Dragonfly is clothing that gives the freedom of movement, and it's also functional, durable, but looks good too, which is very important. Today it now supplies sportswear to more than 80 countries worldwide and is one of the top market leaders in sportswear for pole dancing and aerial hoop. So I am so excited to have Dragonfly as our sponsors for this podcast. The link to Dragonfly polewear will be in the description below. Go check them out, and thank you Dragonfly for the sponsor.
But that was actually one of the myths that we wanted to kind of talk in the event. Is a lot of people think you need to have strength or flexibility before you start, and they see people and they're like, oh, I could never do that. What would you say to those people that think you need strength before you start?
I would say definitely there are no requirements. Absolutely none. And there's not just one way of using the pole as well. You don't have to be aerial on your first class. There's so much that you can do. The fact that the pole is connected to the floor is, I used to honestly, I used to avoid the floor like it was the plague, because I felt like the higher that you get, the stronger you are, which I still believe. I wanted to be up there doing the most acrobatic things, but I'm kind of in love with the floor now. I think that pole has given me so much confidence in my body, in my movement. And I also have the experience of letting my mind go when I'm listening to music. So now being on the floor, I just feel like there's so much more of me that's able to let go and just dance, when I would have never called myself a dancer or said that I dance. But being, the more that you practice, the better you get at something. And I had zero muscles, zero confidence, zero anything to start. And I think that you don't need anything to start, and it will take you there. As far as you will let it, it will take you there. And I do believe that I was inspired because I wanted to get better at pole. I started looking for cross training possibilities. I started seeking out ways that I could be healthier. Even my diet has changed. Everything has been focused on getting better with my body, my strength, my flexibility, my overall just well-being. And I wanted to be lighter and stronger and, look beautiful in all these awesome pole dance costumes that they have out there. So, my focus has completely shifted. It's not just, just fitness. There's so much more in it. And even just starting to loosen up, even if you just go and you just shake your hips a little bit, and you just learn to spin around the pole, and you just kind of let yourself go. Just remember, it's a playground. You can use it how you want. There's complete freedom.
Definitely. Definitely. And I think as well, I love the way you said about the mental aspects and everything, and all the amazing benefits that pole dance has, and how it helps your overall well-being improve and stuff. Um, why then do you think there is still such a negative perception of pole dance?
I have a lot of thought on this question regarding the judgment that's involved in pole dancing from the general public. I think I was the first pole dancer actually in the world to not wear heels. I found it in an exotic club, and I did use the boots that she gave me to to be able to grip. But once I didn't need those anymore and I gained the strength, I really started using the pole as an aerial apparatus. So I was training all these other aerial apparatus and wanted it to feel like just another way of moving in the air. So I was really working on getting a better toe point and being more of a dancer. And so I cut wearing the heels, and I wanted it to be like seen as a gymnastic way of moving. So I feel like I took a lot on my shoulders and started making it my duty to open people's mind and say, you know what? No, this is beautiful. This is acrobatic. This is gymnastic. This is dance. This is aerial movement. It's a pole is a pole.
Yeah.
It's like a chair is a chair, and it can be used so many different ways. You can sit there in it like normal at your office desk and just use it as a regular chair, or you can do a cabaret routine on it, and you can make it really sexy and use a chair in burlesque, and then that chair is like a totally different chair. And I feel like that's the thing. A pole is a pole. It's just an apparatus. It is how you use it. There are very exotic, very sexy ways that you can use a pole, but then there are also a whole separate genre, a different way of movement that has nothing to do with that. So the fact that the pole was linking all of these things together and categorizing them as one was disappointing to me. I did not like the stereotype. I did not like the judgment. I didn't want to feel like I needed to hide what I was doing. So I just wanted to be responsible for leading this movement of art form and opening people's minds about it. I started filming a documentary. I started writing a book, and I wanted to be published. I wanted it to get out there, and I wanted people to really know and just be enlightened. The amount of work that was, I would have needed to stop actually doing what I love to do in order to, like when I started, there were no names of pole moves. And I started to try to write the pole dictionary, and I started to try to get everything out there and figure out where we were so that we could move forward. It already was so overwhelmingly too much of a task that I didn't even have time to do it myself. And I couldn't afford to build a team of people to get this done. So thank God the community has just been so wonderful that it just, when I just left, okay, that doesn't work. You know, I just want to do what I love, and that's performing. And luckily, I've been paid to perform so that I can keep doing what I love to do and perform and teach. I love teaching. It's so rewarding, and it has been able to keep me financially stable throughout this whole career of doing it. So I'm really grateful for all that. But I did give up. I did give up on my task where I thought this needs to be out there. This needs to be known. People need to respect this movement, this art form. I thought, if it happens, it happens. If people see me doing it the way that I'm doing it and still judge, that's their problem, not mine. I thought not everything is for everyone. So no matter what you do, if I'm wearing a bikini, even though it's the same thing that I would go walking around in public on the beach, and then I was doing pole, as soon as it's bikini and pole, it's, oh no, to strip, you know, because people don't know. People fear what they don't know. They judge, and they have, you know, certain ways of thinking, and you can't fix everyone. You can't help everyone. You can't enlighten them. Not everyone is going to be accepting of it. And then I definitely realized that when twerking became a dance style, because I thought, oh, maybe that's going to take some heat off of what we're doing in pole, because that is definitely something different than what we're doing. And some people are actually really respecting that, because it is difficult.
Yeah,
It is difficult, and it is so fun. And some people are saying this is the new genre of dance. It is a respected, competitive, beautiful, like when I'm pretty sure belly dancing was not accepted when it first started happening. It was even, you know, tango, the Argentine tango was unacceptable. When people first started wearing heels to dance, it was, people didn't want to accept it. And then, you know, doing all this research, I realized, you know, eventually over time, people will understand that it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And still, not everyone is going to be like, oh, okay, that's fun, that's beautiful, I would pay to go see a show on that. Not everyone will. But over time, I think enough, you know, incredible people have just gotten so good, and the level has just gotten so high. And I think that I kind of realized, like, it's not a fight. Not a fight anymore. You don't need to stick up for it, because they'll either see it, love it, or not.
Yeah.
And I have to be okay with that. No.
So yes, I once said I loved that analogy of the chair. I've never heard or thought of that before, but that was a really good way to put it. Like the different ways a pole can be used the same way as a chair. That was so good. I loved it. So yeah, so now what we're gonna do is just sort of do some like quick fire sort of myths, questions on pole dancing, which I feel like are the most common ones that people kind of ask about it.
Okay.
So why do pole dancers wear such little clothing?
It's physics. There's a science behind it, and our skin grips the metal, and it's anytime you're performing a move, there's a pressure point, you need a push and a pull, and both of those points of contact need to be skin. The second you get a fabric contact, it's slip. So if you're doing, you know, any move that requires you to defy gravity, there's a reason why you need to have as many parts of your body exposed as possible, because there are so many different points of contact that we press into the pole and really rely on that to grip in order to not slip immediately down to the ground and get injured. So it is definitely science.
Yeah, best way to put it. So you were talking a little bit about this actually, the heels. Why do pole dancers wear heels, especially such tall ones?
Well, there are different styles of dance. Now we have different styles of pole dance or pole acrobatics. So, you know, if you're doing uh, like a contemporary dance, you're most likely going to be barefoot. If you're doing a ballroom style dance, you wear a shoe. And there's a reason why you wear a shoe for that type of dance. And you do a lot of turning, like pivoting on the balls of your foot. The way that you make contact with the floor to turn, to slide, the way you make contact with the pole to grip. And then there's also just for the pure joy that people love the way the heels make their legs look, or accentuates how much longer your lines can be when you have the platform extending your leg lines. So it's a choice, you know, for a style, and depending on how you move and what your requirements are, as far as contact in the floor and contact with the pole. But it's, you know, like personal preference. I think majority of people that I know that use the heels are, it's just because they love it. It's, they think, you know, they feel more beautiful, they feel more confident. It's just like in everyday clothes, if you're going out walking around, whether you wear slippers or sneakers or like a nice high heel boot, it changes the way that you feel about yourself and how you carry yourself.
Definitely. And I know I do pole dancing myself, and I am like a giraffe on ice skates when I try the heels. I just can't whatsoever at all. Like it's terrible. But yes, so all pole dancers are strippers. I feel like that's a big myth that people have. What do you think about that?
Both pole artists and strippers use the same apparatus. Stripping is the art of removing clothing. Usually pole dancers just already have it off. So no, like being a stripper means that you're professionally in the art of seduction, and you are going to be revealing body parts and most likely doing lap dances. Pole dancing is done also for entertainment sometimes, if you're performing professionally, or just performing for peers or for fun. But you are putting on a show, but it's about the movement. It's not actually about the body.
Definitely, definitely. And we talked a little bit then as well about how a big barrier for some people maybe starting pole dance is they feel like they're not strong enough. Another one I always hear is, oh no, I'm too old now. I've reached a certain age. I can't. What do you think about that then? Once you reach a certain age, you can't pole dance.
No, I have. There are a lot of cases, perfect examples of men or women that have started later in life, and it's never too late. If you want to get paid to perform professionally, it depends on what level or where you're aiming for. If you want to be in Cirque du Soleil and you're 45 years old, you might just have missed that opportunity, but there are so many other options, and it's just it will at any age definitely get you more fit, get you more confidence, and just add a lot of benefits to your life. There's no age minimum or maximum with doing something good for your fitness and for your health and for your confidence. And it's fun. You just take it easy, you take it at your own pace. And I'd say, yeah, definitely not. You if you really want something, you'll do it through
Yeah.
any circumstance, through any age. If you want to make excuses, you can find any excuse in the book,
Yeah.
including I'm too old, I'm too miserable, I'm too busy. You'll always be able to find an excuse for.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, that's sort of all the myths and questions for today. But thank you so much, Jane. Honestly, it means so much to me. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.